In this review, the first thing that we'll be discussing is exponent properties. And so looking at this problem, a couple of different approaches. I'm going to show you one method. If you get the correct answer there, just know that there are multiple ways one could start this problem. So I am going to look straight at the numerator. So I'm just going to multiply 12 times 3, 36. If I have 2x's here and 2x's here, that's when I add my exponents, so that'll be x to the 4th. I have 1y, y to the 1st, and y to the 4th. That'll be y to the 5th. And now I'm going to simplify the denominator here. And I'll have 3 times 2, which will be 6. And if I have x and x to the 0, x to the 0 is really a 1, so I'm just going to have an x. Y to the 4th and y to the 1st will be y to the 5th. And now I'm going to be able to simplify the fraction. So I'm looking at first the coefficients here. So 36 divided by 6 is going to give me an answer of 6 there. Next, then looking at the x's, I have x to the 4th in the numerator and x to the 1st in the denominator. That's going to give me x to the 3rd. And then if I have y to the 5th over y to the 5th, that's going to give me y to the 0, which is a 1. So these will just cancel out. And so our answer is 6x to the 3rd. Looking or continuing on talking about exponents, we are told here that we have a start value of 20,000 and that it gains 4% each year. And we have a similar but different type of problem here in that this is giving us a start value also, but then it's telling us that we have something that depreciates. And to do both of these types of problem, what we look at is writing the equation y equals a times b to the x. And so in that problem then, our a value, we might remember, is our start value. And then our b, we know that if b is going to be greater than 1, that's going to be our increase, our growth model. Or if b is less than 1, that's going to be our decrease, okay? So if we look at this, our first one here, we're going to say this is y equals, our start value is 20,000. Times, if we're talking about that this is growing at a percent, remember we take that 4% and we turn it into a decimal, so we need to move it once, twice, and so we're talking about this being as our rate of increase, and if we add that, then what we will have as our b value is 1.04. And so that is our equation for having a start value of 20,000 and an increase of 4%. Okay, our b value is greater than 1, and so that tells us it is a increase. All right, so when we go to write, all right, so when we go to all right, so when we go to write the equation here, we're going to have y equals our start value, which is 1,000. Then we're going to have our 3.2%. Need to change that percent to a decimal. So we're going to move the decimal point 2 places. And now we're going to take 1 minus, since it's a depreciation, 0.032. And then that is going to leave us with a b value of 0.968 to the x. So you can see that just by looking at the equation, you should be able to say, okay, the start value is this. This is less than 1, so it's a decrease. Up here, this is our start value. This is greater than 1, so it's an increase. All right, if you look at this next 3 problems, you might notice that they are the same problem, but, they're the same quadratic binomial followed by the same quadratic binomial. But if we look at this, this is an addition problem, this is a subtraction problem, this is a multiplication problem. And so one of the things we talked about in class is making sure that we really identify what type of problem that we're trying to simplify. So if we have 2x squared and negative 3x squared, we're adding, that'll give us a negative 1x squared. And if we have a plus 3 and a minus 4, that's going to give us a minus 1. Now we're going to do the exact same problem, but this time we have a subtraction sign. We have the subtraction. We need to take and distribute this negative 1. This will become a positive 3x squared. This will become a positive 4. And now I can take and combine like terms. I have a 2 and a 3x squared. That'll be 5x squared. And my constants are a 3 and a 4. That'll be plus 7. And then we can look at the last problem here. This is a multiplication one. It is a binomial times a binomial. So if we have 2 terms times 2 terms, that gives us 4 multiplications that we're going to do. So if we want to take this 2x squared, and then we're going to multiply it by the negative 3x squared minus 4. And then we're going to take the plus 3 and multiply that by the negative 3x squared minus 4. And so now we're going to distribute. This would be a negative 6x to the 4th minus 8x to the 2nd. 3 times the negative 3 is negative 9x squared. And then 3 times the negative 4, negative 12. And so we're going to look at this when we go to combine like terms now. And we would say that negative 6x to the 4th will be part of the answer. Negative 8 and negative 9 will make a negative 17x squared, and then a minus 12. Keep in mind that multiplication, just look at a couple more examples of these, that if we take and multiply any amount of terms, here we have a binomial 2 terms times a trinomial 3 terms, so we're going to do 6 multiplications. And so if you want to, you could do the one we talked about in class also, was the box method for this. And so you can make this x plus 2, and then going across here, this would be x squared minus 3x plus 1. You can see there's our 6 multiplications that we need to do. It's basically just a visual way of doing the distributive property. So we're to take and multiply here where we have x times x to the 2nd, and that is going to be x to the 3rd. Next one is going to be x times a negative 3x, and that is going to be a negative 3x squared. And then I'm going to have an x times 1, and that is going to give me a plus 1x. Moving along, 2 times x squared is going to be a 2x squared. 2 times a negative 3x is a negative 6x. And then 2 times 1 is 2. And now we're going to take and combine like terms. X to the third will end up in my answer. 2 and negative 3x squared are going to be a negative 1x squared. A negative 6x and a positive 1x is a negative 5x. And then our constant is 2. One of the things when we first started doing this next problem in class was that students would very commonly say this was 4x squared plus 9. But remember that what we actually have here is a square, and when we talk about a square, we're multiplying what's inside the parentheses times itself. So this is actually 2x plus 3 times 2x plus 3. It's a binomial times a binomial. So that's 4 multiplications that we should be doing. And so this would be 2x times the 2x plus 3. And then positive 3 times 2x plus 3. And so we'll have 4x squared, 6x, 6x, and 9. And that will be 4x squared plus 12x plus 9 for the final answer.